So one more story, if you'll allow me. I want to talk about the story of identity. We did some identity shifting work in the videos that I put into the program. And that's a massive way to change. There's so many behaviors and so many things wrapped up in identities that we can become a new identity and really, really change. But any coach should be able to change you from a crappy, dysfunctional identity into a good identity, right? But what I want to talk about is realizing that you're not any of those identities, okay? As humans, we want ground. We want to know truth. We want to actually connect with reality in some way. But reality is much more complex than that. And what we end up doing is we do something called nominalization. We nominalize things, and it ends up affecting our identities, okay? Now, what nominalization is it's when we take something that's really a process and we solidify it down into a noun, all right? So I'll show you on the next slide, but one example is a hero. I actually heard somebody recently ask, like, why do we always lose our heroes? We lose Lance Armstrong, we can't get these heroes that just stay. Because there's no such thing as a hero. Heroic act is an act, and we might do it and we might not, but just because I did one doesn't mean I'm now a hero that's like a different thing. I'm still human, and I may not choose to go into the fire the next time. And I may have flaws, and I may be completely human in all kinds of other ways. So people who lie are not liars. People who do heroic acts are not heroes, they're people. People who steal are not thieves. You don't become a permanent thief because you've stolen, right? And people, this is my favorite one maybe for this talk, people who have lost in the past, you're not losers. We've all lost. That's a part of the experience of life. And you can debate for that truth for you. You can debate that story and say, no, I lose all the time. I'm just a loser. It's just never going to happen for me. Well, that's your identity. That's your story. And I say, it's bullshit. Because if you sit in that, you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Of course, if you believe you're a loser, you're going to lose. But you don't have to. Because there's no such thing as a permanent loser. You go and you try again, and you have wins. So this quality of the mind, right? Of course people who lie are liars. There's a functional use of that term, right? We get that. But what I'm talking about is the quality of the mind that makes somebody a permanent liar. And most especially about themselves, right? Like, I can't even trust myself because I never tell the truth. Change it. Change your story. That's not useful. You are not your identity. You are not your identity. You are so much more than your identity. You are consciousness itself. You are literally the perception of the leading edge of evolutionary isness. You are consciousness itself. And all the little stories of, I'm not good at sales, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. Can you see how incredibly small those are? When you're actually something that's indescribable, how incredible you are. How amazing you are. The capacity to love and create and do all these things. It's unbelievable what you are. So your identity is either useful or it's not useful. It's not true. It's not permanent. Let's not forget you're dead. Your 10-year-old identity died long ago. Depending on your age, your 20-year-old identity died long ago, right? You're not that. You express that in the moment, and it's either useful or it's not. So learn to shift your identity. Learn to have confidence to play with that, to claim other things, and to tell different stories about yourself, about your businesses, about your life. What's possible for you comes from what you believe. We hear this enough that it's like trite at this point. I mean, it's just whatever. But that's the truest thing that's ever been written. You got to give yourself the possibility for what you really want to be. So let's rewrite our limiting stories. Does that sound like a good idea? Sound important? You know, if we're not good at that, really, what's the point? Because you can learn all the sales tactics, you can get really good, and if you're going to self-sabotage or live into a smaller story, what are you going to do? It's not going to work. So we've discussed many stories here. Talked about that core kind of cultural story of separation. Could we rewrite that? Think differently? Talk to ourselves differently about what that looks like? Story of I'm not enough. Wow, I hope you decide that that's not the story that you want to carry for yourself. The story of it's not enough. My successes are never enough. Right? The story of the world isn't safe. I can't trust this. This is dangerous. The story of not there yet. The story of time. I'll never be there. I'm not there yet. And the story of your very identity. These are powerful stories that are running our lives. This is the whole game right here. And this is what we're stuck in. And if we don't see them and write new ones, we're going to have incremental change at best. You're not going to have the real fundamental shift that you want to have. So I'm going to invite you as homework to focus on 3 of these. I think that these probably have the biggest impact and are probably the most universal. If you find better custom ones for yourself, that's fine. But I want you to shift into, I am enough. I am more than enough. I'm absolutely valid to be here. I'm enough. The mere fact that you're here tells me that that's true. The next one I want you to have is that the world is safe and that it loves me. If the world wasn't dangerous, if you could go out and try things and do things and failing wasn't a bad thing, what would that change for you? And the last one is the time is now. We're not in some preparatory state for some future thing that's going to all of a sudden get us there. It's now. This is life. You're in it now. So be present, practice gratitude, feel and emote love. Because you control that. You can choose that. You can change your thoughts and actually hone in on what matters to you, what you love, what you're thankful for. You can whine and bitch and moan, and you can say, poor me. And you can say, my life sucks. It's not what I want. I don't like this story. It's horrible. Or you can focus on the fact that you're safe, that you're okay, that you have another shot at it, that this ride is just a ride anyway. Let's be present. Let's be full of gratitude and love. So I want you to remember from the exercises in there how to do this patterning. You can take those stories, those identities, and actually pattern them in. You actually claim them out loud. You feel the truth of them. You see them. You see, I am enough. You see the examples of that in your past, all the times that you showed up and you were enough. You see it now, and you imagine it in the future, being enough. What does that look like for yourself? And then you feel the emotion of what that feels like to really be enough, to be completely arrived and safe and happy, and a contributing, important member of our world. Because nobody will ever have your perspective. Nobody will ever be you. Nobody will ever know what you know and what you know and what you know. Nobody. Ever. It's never happened before. It will never happen again. You are unique and only you have your perspective. And good God, we want to hear from you. Please share. Please heal yourself so that you can actually share your gifts, your perspective. Nobody has an invalid perspective. Even if I don't agree with you, I get to learn from how you see the world. You matter so much. I want you to own that. I want you to have that. What would a world look like if we all realized the truth of that? What if that was our story? How important we all were. How important understanding and communication between us is. So, I want to inspire you. We've talked about healing your stories quite a bit here, but don't forget, you're the storytellers, right? Our world has changed, and what's it turned into? It's turned into there aren't jobs for us in the same way there were. So now we have to figure out value and being an entrepreneur. You guys are the artists. You guys are the creators. I think of starting a business like, you can create lots of things. You can create a piece of art. You can create a bridge, and those both have function and utility. They both matter. They give value past their creation. But if you start a business, you've created something that can potentially grow. Bridges don't grow. Works of art don't grow. You can create one and leave it, and it can stay healthy and alive. You're literally creating life. You're creating a thing that creates value out in the world. okay? So being an entrepreneur is one of the hardest, scariest, most difficult things. You're claiming all that stuff for yourself. You guys are the storytellers. Through the businesses that you create, through who you decide to help, through how you decide to show up, you are the cutting edge of our consciousness today. You're the creatives, and you're creating life. You're creating value. So let's go not only heal our own stories, but let's go tell good, empowering stories out in the world. Let's talk of connection and love, right? Let's figure out the best way to have our narratives go, because our narratives are what we end up taking as real, and that ends up becoming what is real. So what's the story of your business? How can that be important and impactful, not only to you, but to the culture that you create? Look at what the guys at the foundation have created here. Does this matter? Is this important? It's wildly important. You guys will never forget this. You're forever changed by, a couple of guys that turn into more guys and a bunch of people that are now creating something that's wildly important. And what's the story that these guys are writing? What are they inspiring you to do? Connect, love, grow, figure out sales and marketing, all the stuff that you need to do. It's profound. And at whatever level, don't compare and despair, but just do your part to create those stories too. If you have an app that matters, tell that story so that it's impactful, so that people want to participate, so that it helps others. And make sure that the story of your life is a good one. Not one of poor me, not one of I'm a victim, but one of connection, love, growth, contribution. Most important, don't ever forget that deepest level of realization that you are consciousness itself. Can we all take one breath in that and just kind of invite that special space back in? Just hear the silence. Hear the profundity of silence. The profundity of presence. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. I think this is one of the most extraordinary places in the world that I could possibly be, and you are a group of fantastically extraordinary people. And so I deeply bow to you for giving me this space and time. Thank you guys, and thank you all for listening to me. And if I can help you with absolutely anything, you please let me know, okay?